welcome everybody. Welcome to TALiNT Benelux. My name is Andy. I look after our knowledge sharing events. For those of you that don't know Talent Partners, our mission really is to help solve talent challenges. One of the ways that we do this is bring the community together to share challenges, share knowledge, solutions, and expertise on best practice. And especially this year, we think it's been really important to share experiences as well. That's been particularly helpful. In normal times, we would run this event in Amsterdam every year, down at the epicenter at Amsterdam Zuid, which is our normal venue. This year, sadly, we're running them from hastily converted offices in our own homes, which has kind of been everyone's world right now, I think. We are going to spend about an hour. Next hour, we've got some great speakers. We've got a number of different speakers who are going to talk about different issues around the business of recruitment, how it's been this year, and also really some tips to kind of navigate your recruitment business through the next few months as well, which I think are going to be fairly tricky for a lot of businesses, as we know. If you do have any questions, please use the Q&A function online. It's anonymous if you want it to be, but yeah, please ask any questions. It'd be great to get some engagement. That's really enough from me for now. I'd like to introduce our first session, which is going to be hosted by Bart Aberink, who's the director at Global ATS Bullhorn, which I'm sure everybody knows. Bart's going to be talking with Dennis Dienkamp, who's director of digital strategy and business development at temporary staffing agency Coverbo. So I'm going to hand over to you, Bart, now. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Andy, and thank you for having us on this session around change and how to build for the future from a digitization perspective. And to all joining this webinar, thank you for being here. Like Andy said, I'm Bart. I'm an account director within Bullhorn, and as you perhaps know, Bullhorn as a market leader in recruitment technology. With me is Dennis Dienkamp, digital or director digital strategy at Covebo Group. Working with Dennis for I think over 4 years now on different projects. Dennis, you have years of experience in the staffing industry, and especially when it comes to defining technology strategies and implementing those strategies in the organizations you work for. We'll bring you to the audience with a vision Dennis has around change and around digitization. So Dennis, how have you seen businesses change from an operational perspective, and what is different to 5 to 10 years ago, when at that point of time I think you were at Manpower?
Yeah, well, thank you, Bart. Yeah, that's a nice question. When I think 10 years ago, when I introduced myself in the staffing industry, because that was about the time I started, it was, well, we talk now about traditional, but then it was really traditional business. And we were not using a lot of the digital possibilities that were already there. So I think then it was a positive differentiator. And today, if you don't use it, it's a negative differentiator. So I think that's a big difference. And what I see in that time, there weren't so many people that were in this e-commerce business already, and then especially for the staffing industry, ready for use. But today, people are trained at school in a real nice way, and having these young, talented people on board, they just think in the way I think we should act today. So then it was a big change for the company. And we were looking for people that understood where we should go. And today people are trained at school, and you just introduce them in your company, and you can bring your company to the next level. So I think that's a big change, a big difference.
Big difference. And when you look at this difference or change, and to digitization nowadays, how does this change align with the way staffing industries nowadays look at digitization?
Yeah, well, I think there are three ways companies look at it. There are the companies that don't see the change or just try to ignore it. And today, staffing business can be done in a quite traditional way. You can still make a good profit by just having a website or anything. Quite traditionally, you can make a good profit. I think there are a lot of us are struggling implementing digital possibilities in the way we work. And if you do that over the years, you will succeed. And I think most of us do. And of course, there are a lot of new initiatives, the real startups that don't have this legacy, and they can make really complete new business models, which takes out a lot of cost and create new extra value. So, yeah, most of us having the cash cow today with today business. They're trying to implement new digital options in the way they do business.
Mm-hmm. So when we know there is some kind of need somewhere, I would say we all know also that we work in quite a competitive environment. Like you say, I think most of the time, or in sometimes, especially when you are in a high volume temp business, margins could be low. But we need but also the need when progression needs to be made. We also know that it's necessary to create a really strong vision around digitization and change. And how do you translate your vision? How have you been doing that to the business? And what stakeholders do you think are most important or are normally involved?
Yeah. What I noticed is that when I introduced myself in the staffing industry, I saw that we were only trying to change some of the elements. But when I looked at it, I thought it was needed to look at it completely different from the complete business model and to see all elements of the business model. Because if you only change one thing, you often might see that it won't work. Because in the traditional way of working, marketing is in a different position than in the platform way of working. And if you want to introduce digital, you also need to see how you are organized in your marketing components. So I looked at it that you have to change from the overseeing the complete business model. So they have to have all elements in it, digital and IT from that perspective, marketing, online marketing. You have to have the right skills on board. And what I often see, and you mentioned that we work 4 years together, and I think with Boel and I work already 7 years together with the Connexus. You need to have good partners because you need that deep dive into technology and become data driven and everything. That you cannot develop that yourself. So you need to have a clear overall vision. You need to have the right specialists on board, and you need to have the right key partners to manage the complete change. And that is, in my opinion, the best way to move really forward to succeed.
Yeah. So when we know about vision and know what stakeholders or key partners are really most important, I think we also need to understand the drivers for change. And in that perspective, what can you tell what change means for you? What's your definition of change?
Well, there's the nice thing of becoming a little bit older. I noticed that I think change. So that's the air I breathe, and that's part of my success, but also daily part of my struggle. When I look at things and at the business or at the department, I always see new possibilities, and that's nice if someone feels some pain and is waiting for that. But there's also sometimes that I come with good advice that people aren't waiting for. So, yeah, change. I love it, and I enjoy it. And today I make it's my job. So the change is the. I have I think in the last 12 years I have several jobs, but there's always one thing is the same. That's the change component and the transformation component.
And what does it mean for the people that are directly connected with you? What does it mean for your team? Well,
what I try to do, I always say I'm not the specialist itself. You see, I work together with a lot of very good specialists that really create the change. But I try to energize the team and to create a safe environment in which these people can give their best and can make also some mistakes. It's very important that there's not success at one moment. And what you often see, companies try something new, and if it doesn't work, they quit. But I try to realize a shared vision and then move forward together and accept that not everything will succeed at once.
Yeah.
And I think they feel a lot of support from my side.
Nice. When we see, when you talk about new initiative and the possibility to fail, I would say, but mainly when talking about new initiative, we see a lot of discussions and initiatives around change and transformation, especially right after, I would say in March when COVID broke out. We saw a lot of activities and new initiative getting started, and digitization became even more important, and that also differs per region. Mainly when we look at Germany, for example, the DACH region, we see that the industry is quite far behind when it comes to technology and even the possibility to work remotely. So people see it's necessary, but are often also very reluctant maybe to take next necessary steps. What can you tell what is holding them back normally? What do you see, and what is important when going into a change process?
Well, I think it's quite human that we often only change if there's a need, if we want to avoid pain. And I think from the COVID perspective, you see that new technology is already there, maybe for 15 years. But adopting this technology in the boardroom, it's also how do you call it? Also for the boardroom members, it's you have a business doing well. You don't understand the technology yourself the best. So why should you step into that? Sometimes at Covebo today, I'm very pleased that we are changing from the pleasure perspective. So we see a lot of new opportunities, and while business is still going on, we are changing. But a lot of companies just change, or people just change, if there's a need to avoid pain.
Where we were, the question was actually, what is holding people back when it comes to taking the next important steps, and what is important to understand when going into a change process? Dennis?
Well, it's not quit if something doesn't work. Well, in my opinion, and in my experience, boardroom was always the toughest level, because it's the digital change is a business model change, is a complete change, a business strategy change, and overseeing it from it's not just having one little part. There's overseeing it all, and accepting the big change is, I think, the bigger struggle. And then you have the right people on the bus. And then you go forward, and then you don't quit if the first thing doesn't work or the second thing doesn't work. You just have to be focused, and you have to have the right partners, because it's a different game. Playing a different business game is different than the traditional way, and so it's really a big change over all the components. In my time at Manpower, we had to change also the bonus systems. So everything was changing, different job roles, different specialists, and managing this all needs a clear vision. So you can adopt some of the elements, but creating this new digitalized business, integrating on and offline, is really a big change, and you need to have a clear vision. I think that's the most important part.
And then to summarize, can you say that I think the boardroom is the one holding back to taking those next steps?
Yes, in my opinion, it is, because we can make a decision in the board we would like to make, but we just make the decisions that we can oversee, of course. So if you don't have the knowledge in the team, it's quite difficult to make the decision, of course. So having the right people in the bus, also in the boardroom, or to have the right people to advise you. But I prefer to get these people really on board in the team. I think that's holding back, because all technical possibilities are there. A lot of people are trained and educated very well today at school. So, but that's a different generation, Generation Z or Alpha, or I think we have to prepare our companies to adopt these people. They are trained completely different than we work. We work in a hierarchy, and they are trained and they are multidisciplined. They know a lot, and they come from school and then they start working, and then they have to become comfortable in this hierarchy working. So I prefer to create a different way of working, an agile way of working, but also multidisciplinary teams that can develop on a daily basis, instead of this traditional way of working. Hey, we meet each other in 2 weeks again. That's not enough to create the change and to run the business on a different level.
Yeah, yeah. And when you can you mention other success factors when that are necessary for really accomplishing successful change? You mentioned an agile way of working.
I think it's also very important that you create a positive and safe environment. If you look at the people that can manage the change, a lot of people are afraid of change. So there are always a few people that are ahead of the game and like to manage the change, but they should be supported, and they should feel free to make mistakes. Because of all the elements should fit together, you won't succeed at once. You will make mistakes. You have to learn fast, fail fast, of course, we heard. But you have to be supportive from the board to these people. I think that's very important. So, of course, you create a plan and a vision, and then you start acting, and then you have to support them. And the other part is be open. Be open to the complete company, because some companies take out they try to create a greenfield. But I prefer always the change within the company, and then you have to be open to everyone from the beginning. And the other part is, once you implemented the new technology, there is this new way of working. So then it really starts. So don't think then it ends. You succeeded in the technology project. It's ready. You implement it, and then you leave. No, then it starts. So. And also this being open from the beginning to the complete company, your success starts, because once it's there, and what I always try to do is you create a vision, you share this vision, and at first people are a little bit afraid, and then you are still working on it to create the possibilities to implement, and often people are demanding it, asking for it. When do you deliver? And I think, well, that's the moment to start, because then the company is and our head is ready to adopt it.
Mm-hmm. Nice. When you reflect on the transformation in these initiatives you have managed, what are some of the biggest lessons learned, and maybe do you wish to have known, do you wish to have known certain things when you started, looking back?
Yes. Well, I think the pain pleasure principle. I should have been aware of the pain pleasure principle in the boardroom. I should have been aware more some years before, because I burned a lot of energy in my opinion, very interesting steps we could take. But if there's no need for change, well, it's a tough work. So that might be. But in the end, all parts made me stronger, and I learned a lot from all these steps. So I don't know if I should have done anything, if I would have liked to know some things before. I don't know. No.
Process goes like it goes.
Yeah, it's how it should be, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go into the actual change process and managing the change, then managing the change is required also to launch those new initiatives and projects without, I think, losing also focus on daily business and the targets and numbers to be achieved. What steps did you take to get the whole team and organization on board and aligned with the changes that were made?
Well, I think it's maybe a little bit what I already said. Having this clear vision and having a shared vision and having this creating a kind of perspective that people are longing for. Of course, I always think about what some people will lose if they start being afraid or have too much to lose. So I create something that people are longing for. And what I always do is being parts on all level. So there's a strategic level, but there's also the operational level. And I try to be everywhere to really feel what tension is there and to influence that. And people should feel comfortable to step into my office and to have this discussion about what they experience. I think that's the extras in managing the change.
Yeah, nice. We're looking at time. I think maybe one final question I have to you, and maybe as a big takeaway, can you maybe give some more best practices to all people on this on this webinar when it comes to bringing new initiatives really live?
Yeah, for me, the most important part was overseeing the complete business model. So a lot of us talking about the business model, but do we have our today business model really clear? Do we have it written down? And do we have a shared vision in the boardroom about our today's business model? I think that's the first question. And then you start to change. Then you have to oversee what impact will be on all parts of the business model. I use Osterwalder's business model, Canvas. And you talk about new key activities if you start doing something new. Of course, we all have a kind of marketing team, but the online marketing, social media marketing, it all takes different skills. So the activities will change. So you need new job roles. You need new key partners on all levels. And also the key performance indicators you are managing your business on. If you start changing the business, but you manage on the old key performance indicators, you are creating a real struggle for yourself. And people will be disappointed in the end of the year when they have their how do you call it, the performance discussion.
Yeah.
So overseeing today's business model, then oversee what your new vision is and how it impacts your complete business model is the most important part. If you don't oversee that, you don't have a complete plan, and of course things will go wrong. But if you don't have a complete plan and things go wrong, it will be a struggle to get back on track. So for me, that's the most important part, and for sure, be aware that you have the right people on the bus. If you start doing business and you always have to hire the knowledge, then you don't feel comfortable. You have some people with knowledge you need in your team.
Great. I see, and that is, I think, a great summary and takeaway for all. In the meantime, I see a chat message coming in. Dennis, could you please repeat the business model that you mentioned? Which is the one that you used?
It's about business model innovation from Alexander Osterwalder. I think I read it first time 10 years ago, but it helps you managing the complete change. It's really nice to do, and it makes your job even more nicer than it is today. So it gives you a lot of insights, and it makes sure that you are aware of all components. And it makes it also very good to create some storytelling about it, and to influence the people in your company, and to make them part of it. Because otherwise, talking about business model is quite a, how do you call it? It's a container. How do you call it? Container begrip?
Container. Yeah, that's a good one. I think people on this call, the webinar will know.
Yeah.
Container. Yeah. All right. Nice. Very good. I would say thank you. I don't know, Andy, do we have time for any more questions if there are, or
if you have more questions you'd like to ask, yeah, we've got a couple of minutes. Absolutely, this is it's really insightful, so thank you. And we did. I hope everyone wasn't too badly affected by the tech issue that we had about 20 minutes ago, because I got cut off. So yeah, please, if you've got any more questions for Dennis, that's fine. I've got a couple here too.
Yeah, I don't have any questions left for Dennis. So if the people on this webinar do have any more questions, then I'll wait.
There was just one that came to me, and it's obviously, you know, you run you know, different you've got a very kind of diverse business, and it's like how are you kind of what tech do you use to manage your teams remotely and keep them motivated? Because obviously I take it everyone's working from home in lots of different parts of the you know, lots of different locations. So how are you keeping everyone kind of motivated? Because obviously you seem like a very, you know, you presented the human side of all this, which is great, and you know, it's really interesting to get an insight.
Well, it's nice. In former days, I used to work in companies that we introduced lean management to get it bottom up. Today I work at Covebo, and Covebo is bottom up by default. So we have very entrepreneurial people in our company, and the branches are very fully operating themselves with local heroes focused on the clients they are managing. So when COVID came, technically we were ready to work from home, remote, and also from the culture perspective, we were ready for it. So we just introduced some extra meetings, digital, and some videos and some jokes, and to make it to stay connected together. And but the change wasn't that big, only not seeing each other, and that's what of course hurt it as a human, because you want to see each other. And but business wise, it went quite okay, and we had some digital. We drank some digital beers.
Excellent. That sounds good. I think we all need a digital beer soon. Well, the other thing was obviously, just to round off with, because and we're going to talk with Dirk very shortly, who's a COO at Darwin. But just generally to round off with, obviously the pandemic has turned the world upside down in terms of business. What opportunities, to round off with, do you think this whole transformation has presented? There's been a lot of dark side to it, but there's obviously, you know, some opportunities that have arisen from this.
Yeah, I think digital adoption.
Yeah.
Well, we had Teams, Microsoft Teams. We had it for a couple of years, being ready and working remote also. But now we're all happy not having to travel. We meet each other. Our meetings are shorter. If we meet digital, we are winning sometimes. Digital signing, we had it ready on all the branches, but within one night, it was adopted to 98%. So, well, digital adoption is, and the way we do business, the way we live, I think it changed, and some elements will get back, of course, once we can meet each other again, but some elements will stay. And I think a lot of people are not afraid that anymore, and see that within 1 week we can learn a lot. And so I think the adoption will speed up and make us ready for the next wave.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of businesses are finding this. But just to kind of round off your piece, obviously you talk with a lot of recruitment businesses, similar to Dennis's as well. What are you hearing from your kind of customers and clients about the, you know, changes, opportunities? What are their demands, you know, from you guys?
I think what we see is since COVID kicked in, I would say we see that a lot of companies struggle with the way they need to work. I think also from a compliancy perspective, we saw companies really struggling with not having the right platform or tools in place to be able to follow a certain process or and be compliant. So that is actually what we immediately saw, and that differs per region. So I think luckily here in Benelux and Netherlands we are quite far ahead, I wouldn't say, but at least up to date, I would say, when it comes to digitization. But other regions, when you look to the DACH region or to France, for example, all really big staffing regions with a lot of staffing companies there, people really got away and started an initiative and really thinking about their current platform or the current software. And the necessary changes there. So that's yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Well, thank you both. Thank you very much for that, and thank you, Bart, for expertly hosting that chat, and thank you, Dennis, for your insight into what's happening with your business. Really interesting. I'd like to we're going to round off now for the next 15 or so minutes with someone who I'm sure a lot of you already know. I think he's fairly well known, Dirk Rintis, who is COO at tech recruitment business Darwin. And Dirk's going to talk about the grabbing new opportunities, transformation, from their point of view. Obviously, Dirk concentrates on business development as well as digital transformation. So we're going to get this insight right now. Over to you, Dirk.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, and thank you, Dennis and Bart, for having a great conversation around the topic that I truly love. But I'm gonna share my screen, just bear with me, please, because I need to check how this is gonna work out. I need to launch the presentation. And then I need to swap, because otherwise you can see my next slide. All right, so thank you for the invite, talent partners. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we experienced in 2020 so far, and what we are seeing in the near future. Instead of talking about Darwin as an IT recruitment company focusing on data and digital, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself. Is not a sales pitch for myself, but I do believe that my background and who I am as a person has some similarities with 2020, to be honest. So Dirk Rijntjes, 40 years old. I'm a father of 2, 11 years and 8 years. I'm married to a lovely lady already for 12 years, and we're 20 years together. So I'm longer with her than without her. Has to say something about my loyalty, I guess. I'm the COO of Darwin. I studied hospitality management and then did a master's degree at the Rotterdam Business School. I started my career within recruitment without knowing anything about recruitment. I didn't know the word recruitment, to be honest, but S3 really had a good sales pitch for a fresh grad. So I started my career for 7 years with them, and then moved to Darwin to open up our first international branch here in Amsterdam, and then opening other offices for Darwin, and really had the opportunity to see how it is to work as an employee, and now I am one of the shareholders. My motto, and I believe that Dennis and Bart were talking about this in the previous conversation, is change. Change is good. This is how I keep saying and keep motivating the people that work with me. Yes, in recruitment, there's a lot of change, not only change in technology or change in market, but every day there's just something different. And that's the motto, change is good. I also truly believe in input is output, not only on a business level, but also on a personal level, when it comes down to your relationships with your friends, your family, but also work related, but also health related, sports, etc. So input is output. If there is crap input, you will get crap output. If there's quality input, you will get quality output. So that are sort of my two mottos that I put. I'm a big believer in for my life, but also for the business. Next to playing football, I also do triathlons, and I recently picked up kite surfing. So that really links in, I guess, to loyalty or staying at some sports like triathlons, but also picking up something new and learning something totally new like kite surfing. Change is good indeed. I lived in the Netherlands, still live there right now with my family, but I've also lived in Bonaire, South Africa, and Germany. So quite some diverse background. What are we going to talk today about is the changing business model and the opportunities that we can grab. Technology as a driver of change. I think that Dennis and Bart had a great introduction already about this topic. Building your brand, focusing on the client relationships, attracting the right candidates in the current marketplace, and then I believe it's time for some Q&As. All right, change is good. I'm gonna take you through 2020 for Darwin basically. So 2019 was a good financial year for Darwin, and therefore we decided to invest in new staff and looking at other offices and really to build a longer term future for Darwin. In February, I said to my wife, wow, life is really good and business is going in the right direction. In 2018, I did a management buyout of one of the founders of Darwin. I got a big loan from the bank in order to do this transaction, and I started to pay off for 2-3 years now with the dividends of and some extra money I was making. And finally, I could see in February some cash flow coming to myself personally. So I said to my wife when we were on holiday, life is good. I really like the place that we're in. And then 2 weeks later, March started, and I think it was around the 15th of March that we went in lockdown. So the world upside down, I believe that most of you have experienced, or I do think that everybody has experienced this. But what can you do? You can sit back and think and wait and see, or you can really move forward and adopt change is good and think about, okay, what can we do? So in April, there were several business discussion with my business partner Paul, but also looking at the government, what kind of supporting programs there would be. But every day, every week, there would be a different decision and different news and different data came along. We then decided to take our own action and move forward with the decisions that we think would be good, and started to make the actions instead of waiting and seeing what will happen. And I believe that decision in the beginning of April is really led to the positive situation where we're in right now. So we've taken the measurements, looked where we could change our business model, but also change our business structure, did a restructure in the business, and started to looking at opportunities in May. So we started to ask ourselves the questions, what do our candidates want and what do our clients want? So that then left to Darwin Talent Hub solution. So I'm not going to dive really into what the Darwin Talent Hub solution will be, but I will take you through our thinking pattern basically. So Dennis and Bart already discussed that the staffing industry is quite old-fashioned in the way that we use technology, how we approach business, how we are building new client relationships and using technology. There are companies that we aspire to be at, that they've changed a whole new industry like Uber, the way that we use taxis these days. Bank, a Dutch bank who don't have any shops. Spotify changed the total way that we listen to music these days. But also every new kid on the block said, we're going to change the staffing industry. And I truly think that there will be a new kid on the block that will change the staffing industry. But I truly also believe that the personal approach, understanding the dynamics of culture, understanding the dynamics of social aspects of candidates and clients is important. So temper is around the corner. but well, did really well, but didn't adopt to the business model soon enough, and therefore we all know what happened there. Wunderkind, another example that it was a new kid on the block and was really going to change the world of the staffing industry. If I go back 15 years, Monsterboard was that new kid on the block, what was going to change the whole staffing industry. Then LinkedIn came along and was going to change the whole staffing industry. And that is not yet happening. I do believe that there are signs that we need to keep developing and adopting instead of saying it is what it is and recruitment will stay recruitment. So yeah, think about different kind of solutions. So we started to think about what our clients are looking for in this COVID period or after COVID. There's a lot of uncertainty in terms of the government support bodies, in terms of money available, in terms of buying customers, a second lockdown, etc., etc. So we believe that clients are more after flexibility in staffing, but also flexibility normally in a traditional contracting way or outsend way. The first thing that clients will think about is, ooh, that's going to be cost heavy. So I'm not sure if I want more flexibility, because we also need to look at our cost. I believe that every business has looked at their business model, and first thing that came to mind was we need to cut cost. We also looked at how can we offer our clients a better cash flow solution. So we've worked together with our financial advisors to create a new way where we can provide a better cash flow to our customers. Instead saying you need to pay right now, we've come up with a solution that we can extend our payment terms. Normally our payment terms are around 30 days, but we could also look at payment terms about 90 days. So we start to look really what kind of added value can we bring to our clients. Okay, next to that, we also thought about, if we are in a lockdown and we are working remotely, we are ready for it, but we're not that big business compared to these massive companies out there. They are really suffering with working from home, moving everything to the cloud, the remote working aspect of it. I know a company that had 10,000 people working across the globe, and half of them were still working with a desktop. Well, it's quite difficult to bring the desktop to your home and work from there. So all these driving technologies is for us, Darwin, focusing on IT, a big driver to say, okay, we need to move forward and need to start and share information with our clients. Costs are already touched upon, and we try to bring the flexibility, the cost element, driving technology forward, and cash flow to a solution which we call now the Darwin Talent Hub solution. It's not a traditional contracting solution. It's not a different contingent solution. It's just a way that we think we can offer cheaper, flexible labor to really move the technology forward for our clients. So technology as a driver, different kind of subject, but thinking about working from home. We all think that we are doing the right things, but there are more things to consider. So during this COVID period, we have managed to place some candidates, but the feedback with the onboarding was, it's quite difficult to build my internal network when I enter a new organization. Yeah, you know your internal team, but you don't have that coffee at the coffee machine. Or when you want to get a little bit more knowledge from a specific product, or you want to speak to finance about a specific spreadsheet, the one-to-one communication is missing. So how can we really move forward with that? Yes, we've got Teams. Yes, we've got Zooms. We've got loads of offering going on. But think about, technology to really replace this element. Digital transformation, e-commerce businesses. I'm not sure if everybody is aware of that, but Adidas, for example, had a drop down in revenue worldwide of 95%. That was basically because, well, their digital transformation, their e-commerce channels weren't as sophisticated as their retail stores. So with the global lockdown, 95% of the revenue died. We also speak to specific banks, financial institutions, but also big four companies that see an opportunity right now to move companies quicker to the cloud and really act fast. So big corporates have starting to adopt a better scale up mentality and really start moving forward. Why is that important? Why are we only doing it now? Well, Dennis mentioned for their company that they've adopted the digital signing, the Teams meeting, etc. But there's so much more that we could do, and we really need to start thinking about it. My topic is really marketing automation as a technology, and I would give you an interesting example about a company that we all know, Booking.com. Yeah, technology company, great talent. Talent from all over the world, but did they really adopt quick enough? So everybody who's watching this presentation right now has booked in the past year or in the past 5 years an accommodation via Booking.com. Why is it then that you are not receiving or haven't received any emails like, hey, you booked a lovely apartment in Barcelona the other day? That was around September. I can also see that you've booked in September the previous year a lovely apartment in Porto. The AI or the marketing automation should have sent an email, and Booking.com hasn't done that, about, hey, September is around the corner. Are you planning a new trip again to Lisbon? So why are companies not doing it and just relying on their technology itself? So marketing automation for us is pretty keen to, well, really nurture your leads and warming them up to eventually move into sales. So technology for us is really keen to keep on top of our board agenda to see how we can adopt quicker and quicker, and well, using AI really to predict what kind of need a client is going to have in the coming months, years. So interesting to see. What I'm also interested to talk about, and just sharing my knowledge or our knowledge from the past conversation I have had with several clients, is that this period has been very key to build your brand, your employer brand. It's not only about, okay, we've got a vacancy and we've got 100 applicants and we will fill the vacancies ourselves. Okay, that's great, but building your brand, an employer brand, is also telling them, the candidates that are applying to your vacancies, if they have been selected or not and what the reason is. So we've seen a lot of clients, well, sizing down on their talent acquisition teams because the hiring wasn't that huge. But I do believe that you're lacking when it comes down to candidate engagement, or really sharing what your brand is about. So I've put there in the left corner content creation, right? If you don't have any vacancies, what can you do as a brand to really keep future candidates interested in your brand? So share content. Sharing is caring. I believe that a lot of companies have done that in the beginning on LinkedIn and sharing the working from home best practices. Yeah, that's one, but that kept on going for 3, 4, 5 months. But there's more content to be shared. You need to invest the time and share this information and really keep your candidates live by candidate screenings, the applications to interview. What kind of process are we doing there? Then employer brand due to COVID-19. I think that a lot of companies well, suffered from their employer brand because of how they have approached this COVID-19 situation. by not paying enough attention or working too hard on KPIs, for example, because it's a new way of managing your teams. Normally you could manage it face to face, but now it's mainly remotely. And then a lot of companies have managed quite hardly on KPIs. Is that the company that you want to work for? Another thing is that companies have said to us, yes, we can fill our vacancies ourselves, because one, we've got 100 applicants coming for one vacancy, but and I've got examples of that, is that the company said we're looking for a data engineer, we've got 100 applicants, we will sort it out, but all those applicants came from outside of Europe, or not all, but let's say 90%. We all know that traveling these days and moving countries is not that easy. So don't be stubborn, and also don't think that the best talent will be let go. An example of Uber, we all know that they had to let go a lot of staff, but when you look at the people who were let go at Uber, 3% were IT talent. And 3% that was one trainee on mobile devices and one support engineer. That was the talent that they let go. But obviously, companies like Uber, technology companies, are keeping their talent to themselves. They don't want to let go because we all know that it's quite difficult to find good candidates. High number of applicants I've talked about, and what we also see is that candidates want more certainty. They are unclear what's going to happen with their career, and we need to take that in consideration as well. So how to think and come up with different kind of solutions to offer more certainty to clients, to candidates. So we really have to think about that brand that we're building. Okay, when we keep on talking about candidates, it's about attracting the right candidates as well. Mentioned this already, IT staff is still in high demand. So therefore, my advice is, as a client, as a future employee, continue to build your employer brand by sharing a lot of information, but also be transparent. Be transparent about the jobs that are on your website. We know that there are a lot of jobs on websites that are not real open vacancies, but be transparent about it. Don't be a window shopper and just interview a lot of candidates without really moving forward to the next stage. It is about your employer brand that you're building now for the future. So with transparency and clarity, give the candidate the right experience. So with sharing information, sharing content, really keep in touch with them and being open and honest about, sorry, not right now, but I want to keep in touch. It's not something new, but I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. That is so important to also invest in the marketing and your ATS system. Really to nurture your candidates for the future. Because yes, candidates are still interested in new employers because they don't, well, sometimes they're not really keen to stay where they are because of different reasons. But give them then the job security. Make sure that you attract the right candidates for in the future, but you need to keep them warm and not just only promising like, I will come back to you and then don't deliver. Make sure that you will come back. So that was just in short, a little bit of our knowledge from the past 9 months in 2020. Curious to see what's coming. We're all talking about a second wave. I do believe that there's the companies have learned from the first lockdown, but yeah, let's see what it brings to us. But change is good. So over to some questions.
Thank you very much, Dirk, for that. There's a lot of advice in there actually. So really appreciate you putting that together. You mentioned the second wave. What effect do you think the second wave, if we do have a second wave, and if we're not already in it, will have on the recruitment industry?
Yeah, it really depends on which area you're focusing on. So the companies which are hit the most by the first lockdown and most likely will continue to be hit by the second lockdown, are the companies that are focused by giving us a good life. Traveling, hospitality, entertainment, those companies will be hit. IT, healthcare, pharma, retail, when I'm talking about supermarkets, I don't think that there will be a big hit. I do think that, again, when the second wave is there, companies will have to reconsider their strategy again, but the adoption will be quicker.
Okay. And how, another question has come through, how have you kept your own staff engaged and motivated through this period?
Yeah, it was a difficult way, to be honest, because I'm a people's person. I like to be around with people. I'm an energetic person who, well, with my energy, try to motivate my staff as well. And that's also the management team below me. They're, well, really, yeah, binding with energy. So doing that remotely is challenging. Also with L&D and supporting people is challenging. How did we do it? It's just continuously be engaged. But sometimes we were over engaged, so we made mistake as well. It's like three times a day I would give them a call. Hey, how are you doing? So leave me alone. I will deliver. So yeah, we learned through that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned shifting that to the candidate side. You mentioned kind of sharing is caring. What ways have you changed your approach to your candidates?
Yeah, well, not really changed our approach to candidates with sharing is caring. 2 years ago, we embarked upon drive a new approach to really give more back to our candidates, to our candidate communities with technology, organizing meetups ourselves. So yes, those meetups weren't available during COVID. So we started to do a lot of webinars, a lot of podcasts have been released. So this is what we're doing.
Okay. Are you guys going to expand in the coming period? Just out of interest.
Yeah. Well, interesting question. So that is thinking about possibilities, right? So yes, not in 2020, but we are hiring people remotely. So we have hired new talent, that have been made redundant for several reasons, but are operating, let's say, in Washington DC, where we don't have an office. But with the technology that we have, we now are employing people in Washington DC from home office, to build up their business or Darwin's business, and then eventually start first in a flexible office solutions like WeWork, for example, and then expand from there. So we have hired 3 people so far in different locations.
Thank you very much. Well, look, I think we've gone a little bit over time-wise as well. So, and I know lunchtime is fast approaching in the Netherlands. I'd just like to thank you very much, Dirk, for that. That was really insightful. Thank you to all our speakers, to Bart and to Dennis as well. We will share the slides from these sessions. We'll also share the edited video. So if anyone does want to go back and check out the edited video, to cover anything off again, please go to our website where you registered. We'll also be sending out a survey this afternoon. So if you do have any other questions for the guys, just stick them on there, and we will make sure that the right person comes back to you. And if you could fill out that survey about the event, that would be fantastic. That's pretty much it from me. Thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you to our partner Bullhorn. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to put these events on. But mostly, thank you very much to our delegates. And we hope to see you back in Amsterdam in a live situation at the Epicenter next year. But thank you very much, guys, and it's been great to see you. Thank you.